us, and we're going to be talking about his game, Arkham Archives, which was successfully launched already, and he's here to share insights. So welcome.
Thank you so much, Nalin, and thank you all for being here. I'm Andrea, and I'm really pleased to meet you all. And I hope I can be of any help to you, sharing my experience and things like that. So.
Love it. Yeah. So if anyone's tuning in, feel free to ask questions, drop it in the comments, and then it'll come up on our end and we'll be able to answer that. So to get us started though, can you tell us more about yourself, how you got into game design, how you got into, creating your game in general, right? Before we get into the actual what Arkham Archives is in the first place.
Yeah, of course. So basically in my life, I dedicated myself to completely different missions. I have a marketing, psychology, and economic background. And I was kind of dragged into the world of board game marketing because I have a lot of friends that play these kind of games. And I was a passionate gamer in my previous life. So basically, mainly video games, but I love so many board games in my history. And I kind of stopped playing games for a lot of time, and in a strict sense, I was not happy. I like so much Magic the Gathering, for instance, which is maybe the game I dedicated most of my time. When I had the chance to meet some people who now have become my team, I was like, okay, this is something I really want to do, and we have so many ideas that we wanted to realize. We came in touch with Kickstarter. Okay, that's the future of game making, of any project making. So I really want to do that. Let's do this. And we created some ideas. We create, a timeline and so on, and we decided to launch. Our first project was launched in September 2020.
Wow.
Yeah, it's Arkham Archives. Yeah, very basic story. A story of passion, like many of the people who are in the Facebook group already can share.
Yeah. So from this marketing psychology, right? That's fascinating, obviously, to me too, because I just love marketing in general. What kind of marketing psychology things were you studying?
Well, I started with behavioral psychology. So the first notion is, okay, many people in the economics world just think that people act rationally, while for 99% of our lives, we act with no ration at all. Every time you click a button, every time you decide to pick, comfort food or something like that, you're not going to act rationally. That is the basis of a long series of studies. And that was kind of fascinating to me. I really love the role emotions play in purchase decisions and in behavior in general. So emotions, irrational ways, and potentially anything that is psychology, individual and collective psychology, all the things that are behind, for instance, influencer marketing are extremely fascinating to me. The tendency to coping with other people's behaviors, projections of ideas, and all of things like that. It's a sort of engineering way to approach marketing, and I really love it. That's why I made it my full-time job as for now.
Yeah, that's fascinating, because a lot of it can, again, apply to a launch too, right? Like getting people super excited about this one thing, getting people to like see other people wanting to back a project, and so they end up backing the project too, like creating all of that kind of like it's kind of like psychological mind games in a way, marketing is.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Arkham Archives. Like, what is the game about, and how did you dream it up?
Oh yeah. First thing first, Arkham Archives is not the usual board game, because it's not a board game at all. It's a game book. The idea of writing down a book game was just like, okay, we are so nostalgic about the 80s and the 90s, and game books were extremely popular during those years. We all in the team had the chance to play a game book sooner or later. For instance, my first game book was a Disney one. It was not just so much of a game book. It was just Donald Duck's adventures with an interactive story. It was really, really fun to play. I played them all time when I was a child, and replay them to unlock all the different ends and so on. It was really, really nice. And basically, all of us had the chance to play a game book. And we really wanted our first project to be a game book. All of us are passionate about H.P. Lovecraft's universe, so we decided to create a game book based on that specific lore. But of course, in our own way. We didn't want it to be just a copy of or an edit of H.P. Lovecraft's work. So we placed our own style into this game book. It's an interactive story in which you are always a certain character, which is a kid named Ace, and he travels back in time and he possesses the mind of other people. So Jack, his grandfather, or Queen, which is a Hollywood star, or King, a person that I cannot talk to you about because it would be a spoiler, but it's very, very nice to see how he behaves into the mind of these people. And it's kind of the narrative behind the way you are experiencing another person's life and you're making decisions in place of them. So you're basically interpreting Ace during these adventures. And you will find yourself trapped in a cosmic horror, which resembles, of course, the works of H.P. Lovecraft. You will find horrible creatures and dark dungeons. And the first chapter is called the Limestone Abyss, because you will find yourself in an abyss made of limestone, and you will have to get your way out of this. It's very difficult to come to an end because you have so many ways you can die or go crazy, since it's a huge part of this of the narration of Lovecraft. And it's very difficult to come to an end. You have multiple possible ends, which will that will condition the way you play the following chapters. If you go crazy, you will start a certain way. If you manage to survive and still keep yourself sane, you will start the second chapter in a certain way.
Got it. Well, okay, let's backtrack a little bit too. For people who are not familiar with it, what is a game book?
Yeah, so a game book is a book, of course, but it's divided into many, many chapters, like 300, 400 chapters. And at the end of each chapter, you will have the option to decide what you want to do. So, for instance, chapter 1 will tell you, okay, you find yourself in this oasis in the desert. You can go north, east, or west. South is blocked by a path. And if you want to go north, go to chapter 3. If you want to go west, go to chapter 73, and so on. All the decisions you'll make will lead you to different paths you can possibly take. And it's very cool because you can explore all the surroundings and you can go back to where you were before, and you can make a lot of decisions. So if you encounter a goal, as in our book, you will be able to decide if you want to run away or if you want to just go and punch him, or if you have a weapon, you can try to shoot at him or get a pickaxe in his head and something like that. Since you are able to decide, you are able to pick your time, and maybe if you explore, you get a weapon, so you are not so likely to die in the next few chapters.
Yeah,
it's a different kind of narrative if compared to a video game, because video games are, of course, very stimulating, very interactive, but a game book unites the interactivity of a video game with the possibility of imagining your character, the places you're visiting, much like of a book. And it's a kind of game we really like and something that we want to propose back. There is a nice revamping of these kind of books. There are some other game books that we think are really, really cool. One of them I have here, like, for instance, this one, which is a very, very cool book from some Italian writers. Mm-hmm. And it's cool because it lets you also learn something that happened in Europe during the 90s, because it's placed in the Balkans. and when there was a war. And it's beautiful to see how people kind of reacted to that kind of environment, which you just get bombed and you have to escape from a library that is just burning down. It's very anxious, and it just lets you try to escape without letting your friends behind you. It's very, very cool to play.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so clearly you created these game books because you were using them and kind of reading through them and enjoyed them when you were younger, right?
Yeah.
How did you decide on just kind of like jumping in and doing this in the first place? What was kind of like that catalyst?
The fact that we had amazing ideas, or at least what we think is an amazing idea for these books. There is a lot of conversation right now with this kind of environment. So all the cosmic horrors from Lovecraft's universe, for instance. And we think that this format can be kind of stimulating because video games are cool, but there are a lot of them, and people might want to feel another kind of experience, an experience in which you are free to imagine the world someone is describing to you with your own means, your own head, and maybe something that also helps you to detach from all those kind of frenetic electronic lifestyle. You might just want to get off your computer and have an experience of reading a book. It's something that we think is really a beautiful experience and something we want to propose our followers.
Gotcha. Okay, so from here, right, you have this product that you're really passionate about, and then you have all these amazing ideas that are going into it. How did you kind of start marketing for it? Because I assume that the audience can be very varied, right? There's readers, people who might like puzzle adventures, people who might just like games and like kind of choose your adventure. There's like a lot of different ways you could go. So how did you get started just kind of marketing and getting the word out?
Yeah, the first questions that popped into our mind was, where are we going to find these people? Because we think we don't have to convince them. They will be in love with the project because of a lot of things, because it's not only a game book, but it also comes with a limited edition poker card set, which contains all the illustration from Lovecraftian horrors and entities and gods. It's very cool. They're going to love it because they love these kind of things. We knew the audience because, in a sense, we are a part of that audience. But I myself, for instance, have been talking to them a lot because I'm active in communities and all of things like that. And communities were the first place that came into our minds. So if we can just place our work inside communities, they're going to love it. And we went to communities and we tried to make them see the work we did, but not with an advertising approach, but rather with a critic approach. So, hello everyone, I'm being completely transparent. I'm going to publish this work in a couple of months or so. There is this illustration here about Dagon or about Azathoth or about Cthulhu. What do you think about it? Do you think it resembles what you imagine Azathoth to be or Nyarlathotep to be? We were asking for feedback in order to get constructive criticism, and people were very, very responsive. A lot of them started following us. You can find these people in forums, for instance. And there is a cool fact here, because during the Kickstarter, we had a lot of backers from France. We were asking ourselves why. There were so many of them that we decided to unlock French as an extra language for the gamebook translation. And we asked ourselves why. We made some research. We found out that we targeted a lot of forums, even some Reddits, where we had pretty much the very same attitude. Look, I'm going to publish this. All these cards, they are beautiful. What do you think about it? Do you think they could be, I don't know, realistic and something like that? Then there was this forum crowded by French people We also had to translate because we don't speak French very well. And they were like very, very negative about the campaign. A lot of them were talking about it nevertheless. They're not going to make it because I think they failed the early bid tactic, all these kind of comments, which were not mean, but a lot of criticism was generated. But we think that many people came to know us because of that discussion, which was very heavy, and it's a very cool thing, but something that I personally find as a success case. Sometimes you just want people to talk about your product. They might not be your best sponsor or your best influencer, but they pick a lot of people and get them to know you. And if when you are transparent, when you are passionate about what you do, and you want to bring all the best to these people, all the people that came in touch with you with not so many funny words are anyway going to see you as not so much as a professional, but a passionate person who just want to deliver a great product. And they might be following you. Why not? We think that a lot of people came thanks to this thread.
Yeah. Wow. So when you were getting started, you mentioned that you went into forums to like talk to people, and then they started talking about it and things like that. How did you decide where to kind of go and talk to people? You mentioned like Reddit, you mentioned different forums. How did that come about?
Yeah, you have to run a lot of research before you actually decide to launch your campaign. It's basic, it's crucial. I'm not so experienced. We have just one project funded up to now. We hope the second one will be as much successful. But when a person comes to me and asks me, how do you get your product on Kickstarter? My first answer is, of course, you have to make a lot of research. Not only about the people you want to go to, but even about your product. You need to be absolutely sure that that product is going to be perceived as a high value one. And you basically do that by asking a lot of people, and try not to go with your friends, because sometimes they just will tell you, oh yeah, it's great, and you will surely do it. And maybe your idea is not still so strong enough to be published. And research, of course, contains where do you people talk about. You might want to go to events, libraries, or basically any place your kind of people can be. Where do you get in touch with them? You have to do a lot of research, and we passed months making our own research. So, for instance, going to free tools like SimilarWeb, and when you go on, I don't know, Lovecraft forum, you can see on that website where people come from and where do they go. This is something I really suggest people to do. And if you make an extensive research, both on Google, both on social networks, why not? You are definitely going to meet them, because they are out there and they leave a lot of traces. You just have to be, like the Witcher, going after scents and traces. And when you do that with passion, because you definitely want them, because you want them to go on your Kickstarter page and click back this project, you're gonna find them.
Yeah. I really like that you mentioned SimilarWeb, because it's actually one of the main tools that I personally use too when I do market research, right? It's, for people who don't know, SimilarWeb is literally a website where you put someone's URL in, and it, just like what Andrea was saying, it tells you where people are coming from to hit that website and where people are going to. So you can kind of work backwards and find where people are chatting in that way.
You kind of reverse engineer their paths on the web, thanks to SimilarWeb. And you can do pretty much the same. If you see that HP Lovecraft forum, people come from, I don't know, Reddit, you can see where people come from when they go to Reddit and something like that. You can follow their traces, exactly what you need to do in order to see how they behave.
Love it. Yeah. So from here, right, you're starting to talk to people who had this interest in this game book that's coming out. how did you kind of get them hyped up for the launch? How did you kind of get them to know that it's coming, they can pre-order it, and for them to ultimately like go and spend money? How did that all happen?
Yeah, you have to convey value and trust. Trust is, okay, I am here. My team and I were never with the attitude of I'm not going to show my face and something like that. We placed our faces on the project from day one. Absolutely. So this is a bit of trust. I am this and I'm that. I have this. I am an engineer. I am a marketer. I am a writer, and so on. And you have to let them see that they can trust you. Trust is a key component. Otherwise, they're not going to back you. You have no story. You have no background. You are basically no one, and you have not a face. Not going to back you. And value. And value has its own rules. As a marketer, I know that if you just fire all your bullets in one shot, you're going to miss the target and they're not going to listen to you anymore. But if you dose all the things that you have in stock, people are going to follow you because you get their hype and you place them on a sort of a roller coaster. So today I showed you one card, maybe the King of Spades. Next day, I showed you another card, the illustrations. One day, I showed you a demo of the book, which was nice to play. And you have to convey a bit of value each day. And people are going to follow you because they see that you are proceeding in your project creation. And it's so important. And at the end, if you are good enough to pick all those things that are valuable to your audience and place things that are not valuable outside, at the end of the day, when you go outside, people want to back you because you kind of conveyed everything that they needed to know in order to say, okay, this is a very nice project. I want to be a part of it.
Yeah. So when you were doing this, right, like making sure that you're conveying value and like kind of removing things that weren't valuable to your audience, were you going through this and like kind of putting people into an email list? Were you going through this and driving people to like a pre-launch notification page on Kickstarter? How are you kind of getting people like all together in one place in a way?
Yeah, it really depends on the way you tend to work. Personally, I think that a wonderful way to keep people engaged is a community. I am a huge fan of communities, and I think the marketers around the world still don't put so much interest and effort as they should. A Facebook group, for instance, is ideal, but it's not just about, okay, Arkham Archives group. It doesn't work just like that, because you are no one to me, and I'm not going to join a group because you think you are so good and you deserve me to be in a group. People actually reason like that. You don't deserve my attention. You don't deserve me on your group. You have to convey value even in the way you engage them. If you want to pick them and put them into a mailing list, you have to convey value. Each email should bring them news, new illustrations, new parts of the project. Oh, look, I completed the book cover. It's wonderful. Come and take a look at it. That way you are going to engage them. Mm-hmm. But in my experience and in my thoughts, a direct community, a Facebook group, for instance, will be the ideal way to keep them engaged, especially if you create a group that is not dedicated to your work. Something they can enjoy and they can actively engage with. And if you bring them to create their own content, so generate a lot of user-generated content, is even more ideal because you don't have to just stick there and try to take their attention and keep them engaged. They're going to keep themselves engaged because they will share content one day. The day after will be another person who saw this illustration on the web and wanted to share it with the group and all things like that. Beta testers are also a very, very good way. You ask people that came in touch to you, okay, leave me an email. I will let you have the beta version of the book test it, come back to me, and tell me if you liked it, what you will change. You are getting constructive feedback, engaging people, bringing them a reason why they should follow you and suggest you to their friends. If the gamebook demo is good or even just promising, they're going to tell someone, take a look at this, it's wonderful. Do you remember the game books we used to play in our childhood? This one is fantastic. It's a reproduction of those games. It really depends on the way you are moving, and it really depends on your product. But this might be the strongest way of keeping them connected. A mailing list is good, but often it's not enough. You have to engage them in other ways other than the waiting list.
Got it. So basically it's like, again, that building that community so that you're able to, in a way, like activate those relationships and be kind of really close to the people who are interested and also excited about your idea too, who will ultimately kind of back you. And since they're here talking together, they're also sharing all of this different content and getting other people excited and hyped up too, in a way.
Yes, exactly. And this is another way you prove those people that you really care about them. It's way past the era in which you could advertise and sell a product without really caring about the customers. People are way, way more aware today. So the winners in the end are the ones who really care about people they are talking to. And we love this community because we are just a part of them. And this is crucial. If you think you are one of them, you are going to create something that conveys value. Because you think like them, you know what frustrates them because you are a part of them. And if you get to create this link, this bond with those people, you are going to be successful.
Love it. Love it. So now that you have this community, everyone's kind of like sharing content, everyone's really excited about the project. What was launch day like for you?
Yeah, launch day was really thrilling. We were like, as a final result, day one was something like, if I remember correctly, 50% funded, which was better than we expected because we were absolutely no one. We came to Kickstarter with the real Kickstarter attitude. So we had just a project in mind and a lot of mock-ups, but illustrations, which were original, a part of the game book, which was again original. So all the things that we could create was there, and it was cool because we thought that we could be 20%, 30% funded, and we went a lot better than expected, and we ended the campaign around 200%. So not so much, but it's a nice way to start. Not a bad day, as you might guess it. And it was very emotional for us. And you learn when you launch your first project that you can think about any possible outcome. You are going to miss something. In our case, for instance, we thought in a wrong way about the early bids. We made something that was not optimal, and people were complaining about it. So you have to learn quickly and to see how you can repair to your mistakes. Because I made a mistake. So I know that since you as a backer are a counterpart of myself, and I, in your situation, will be frustrated too, I'm going to repair to the mistakes I made. So you have to be really, really responsive to people. And if a lot of people will help you, actually, they will tell a lot of things that actually make sense. And if you learn from what they say, because they saw more campaigns than you, they backed more campaigns than you, and sometimes they even created projects. So if you can hear to your community, you are going to anyway fall onto your feet.
Yeah. So let's talk about, this early bird thing. Can you tell us more about what the situation was and how you went about kind of overcoming this mistake?
Yeah. The first problem was maybe the duration of the early bid, because as I told you before, we didn't think we had like 50% funded in one day. So we created a lower amount of early bids that we expected to. They were nearly finished in a couple of hours or so. So people were complaining, I didn't have time to get in the early bid. So we learned from that, and we managed their objection, because they were really angry, of course. But we made the promise to them to treat them well for what concerns chapter 2, 3, and 4. And for instance, we are not making the same mistake again. We have a 72 hours early bid. So you are not going to miss it, because first of all, you'll be noticed. You are in the wooden list, you'll be noticed. You will have plenty of time to go into the early bid. And if you make people understand that you learn from your mistakes, and you listen to them actively, and not because, okay, I'm just listening to you, I'm just I don't know, I'm just faking to listening to you, because this way I'm going to keep you shut your mouth, and so that you don't annoy me during my campaign. You're really listening to them, because they are expressing their frustration and their problems to you. You are going to learn very, very quickly, and people will recognize you're working for them, not for yourself.
Yeah, no, that I love that you brought that up, because it's, again, that not only transparency, but also making sure that you're always kind of taking people's feedback in too, rather than kind of creating a wall. This is how I'm going to do it. This is how, I want to do it, right? Because at the end of the day, your backers are the ones who help you get an idea funded,
Yeah, totally. Funded. And people often underestimate this, but Kickstarter is just a pool of early adopters, people that are really, really innovative, and they are always looking for new ideas to bring to light. And they are way more experienced than the average customer, who maybe lags or just buys what other people already validated. They are really, really, really strong for what concerns value proposition, suggestions. They saw it, everything. So if you listen to them, you're going to speed up your learning curve of years.
Yeah, absolutely. So from here, right after the launch day, updating this early bird stuff that you had, what else did you do throughout the campaign in order to get the word out, to get people continue to come to your campaign, to get it funded ultimately? How did you continue to market?
So for what concerns day one, we also launched a bit of advertising, so on Facebook, on Instagram, which was, basically focused on making the most out of the first day. But that's all. And during the latest days, so from day 2 on, we were just focused on two main things. First one was to understand how strong was the Kickstarter algorithm, because we used that campaign not only as a first step, but even as an experiment. We wanted to see a lot of things happen. And that's why one of the reasons why we didn't rely on advertising at all, maybe just one for some hours on day one. We wanted to see how the algorithm performs and how many people we could take from Kickstarter itself. And the second one was, if we keep people updated and we show them how our job progress, are they gonna follow us? Are they gonna back during the later days? Are they gonna step back if we reach the goal? Because you might bring your support in, and then going back if the project gets funded because you are not really that interesting. All these dynamics we wanted to test on our own skins. So it was a sort of a huge experiment to us, and it went really well. But during those days, we were constantly active on communities, showing them, okay, we got funded, for instance, come and see that, just to keep, for instance, just to see how people tended to respond to a pre-Kickstarter page versus an actually founded game. Maybe the social proof given by people who backed the project and made it to life was enough to convince them. Maybe some of them were not convinced still, but when they saw the 100% funded on Kickstarter, okay, I'm going to back in because these people can be quite good. They get funded. I didn't know how they make it, but they did this. Maybe they're not that bad. And active in communities, in forums, in blogs. We try to be extremely active on updates, just to show them what we were doing in that time, progressing on the book, new illustrations, new edits to the illustrations, and all things that could possibly bring them value.
Yeah, I love it. I love that you outlined a lot of very tactical things that you were doing in order to, and all the things you were kind of experimenting with and kind of tracking too, to see what was working, what was not working. So from all these things that you were talking about, what are you taking to your next campaign? Because I know that there's more and more and more coming out in the pipeline too.
Yeah, totally. We have the second part of Arkham Archives, which will contain chapter 2, 3, and 4. But we have a lot of projects in mind: party games, German games, environments for D&D and Pathfinder campaigns. We have them all. But one thing that we are, of course, bringing back is community. So going to these places can assure you that you're going to get their attention. And there is another thing that I didn't mention before, but it really worked during the first campaign, and we want to organize as much as those things as possible, which is events. We were at just one event, unfortunately, during September, because the pandemic didn't allow us to go, on Lucca Comics and all these festivals in Italy. And it was a shame, but luckily we got an event in a game store, and it was really, really nice. We had this live stream, and we talked about the project, the illustrations, the lore, what is going to happen next. And quite a few people followed us, and we registered an increase in Italian backers from that day on. So there was this long tail of people who were looking at that interview, even in the following days, that in the end were to basically fund us. So that's very, very important. And I suggest people to try as much as possible to go and just go networking into those events, because networking is what makes the differences in business. And it does the same in board game. Even if you are on Kickstarter, you have to remember that you are not the billion-dollar company. You can, in your first project, you are going to talk to 400, 500, 1,000 people. If you engage 20 of them with an evening in which you are having fun because you are on an interview, well, I suggest you to do so. If you're very, very good, people are going to talk about you, suggest you, and link you. So that's very, very positive, a great experience. And we want to do that as much as possible during campaign 2.
Got it. Okay, so that's going to be a lot of content coming out from you all for campaign 2, for sure.
Yeah, totally. When people see that you are creating content, they know that you are serious about what you do. And by content, I mean 2 things mainly. First thing is the content that relates to your work. So we have all the covers from all the books. They're really good. I really love them. And they create that atmosphere we want to recreate. We have very good illustrators working with us, so they are amazing, and they always do great jobs. But the second thing that I want to improve in the next campaign is social content. So it's me, my friends, talking about what we are going to do, showing them the prototypes we get, showing them, look, this is the new illustrator the new illustration I'm going to place in the book, working on this, working on that, work in progress. All this social content makes people think that you are really there for them and you care about the community, because you you use your time to show them you're creating something good. That's something we absolutely want to do in the future.
Love it. Love it. Like, again, content is so key because it shows people that you care, because you're kind of showing up all the time with new things or surprising things or like questions or something that will not only engage them, but also have them kind of go into your mindset and your psyche and how you're going on building this product that you're launching, right? And so from here, right, if people want to grab a copy of Arkham Archives or they want to learn more about it, where should they go to?
Well, we have the website, deltadreamsgames.com, which is the name of the company. And then they can go on Kickstarter. The coming up page will be ready in a couple of days, so they can see what happens live. They can also go to our previous campaign, which we have customized, all things like that. We still keep on creating updates in order to show people how we are performing in terms of complying with the game book creation, the prototyping, and so on. So we are active from that point of view, and on social networks, of course. We try to publish as much as we can, but we all have full-time jobs and sometimes it's very difficult to keep up with all the stuff we want to do.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us all these insights about crowdfunding, about how you approached it, all the things you were tracking, what was working, what wasn't working, and also, what you're taking to the next campaign too. So thank you so much for your time.
It's been a pleasure.
All right. Well, I will see you online. And again, thanks to everyone for tuning in. If there's any other questions, leave it in the comments and Andrea will be there to respond. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.